Let's find out how the S26 Ultra stacks up against the Vivo X300 Pro. Samsung's flagship offers a wider field of view, but the colors are noticeably punchier using Vivo's default vibrant mode. Switching to the main lens tones down the saturation on both, though the Galaxy clearly overdoes the reds on the car at 2x. Pulling out the telephoto lenses, 3x on the Samsung and 3.5x on the Vivo, results in a clear win for the X300 Pro. The S26 Ultra struggles to balance the exposure, blowing out the highlights and making the whole scene too bright. Of course, Samsung has a second telephoto lens at 5x, which handles the scene much better than its 3x counterpart. However, it still doesn't show a clear advantage over the Vivo here. Moving to 10x, I definitely prefer the X300 Pro. Pushing it to 30x reveals a massive gap in Vivo's favor. The AI processing is doing a lot of heavy lifting here, which becomes even more obvious at 100x, turning the image into an almost cartoonish painting. That said, the S26 Ultra is barely usable at 100x anyway, which is typical for most phones. Let's zoom in on the little boat. While the colors pop more on the Vivo, the Samsung shot is noticeably brighter. Honestly, neither phone hits the color accurately with the ultrawide, but you can see how they both adjust when switching to the main lens, with the S26 Ultra staying on the brighter side. The 2x shot from the Galaxy is pretty embarrassing here. It is packed with noise and lacks details in comparison. Vivo's telephoto lens easily overpowers Samsung's primary telephoto as well. At 5x, the S26 Ultra manages to keep up to some extent, but the X300 Pro maintains the upper hand. The 10x shot looks incredibly clean from the Vivo, almost too clean thanks to the AI polishing, but I still prefer it over the Samsung. The same goes for the 30x crop. If you are trying to capture text from a distance, Vivo's AI actually does a remarkably good job here. Yes, that really is spelled with a triple F. Let's run through a few quick rapid-fire rounds before we move on to portraits. The major difference here is the color science, especially looking at the stones at the bottom. Both phones shift the processing on the main lens, but manage to stay more consistent at 2x. Vivo's telephoto looks different yet again, but it retains more details, whereas Samsung's 5x shot struggles with exposure. The Vivo delivers a much cleaner image at 10x, definitely thanks to AI, but it doesn't look overly artificial. Even at 30x, the X300 Pro simply produces a better looking shot. 100x remains pretty useless on both devices though. Vivo seriously needs to dial down the saturation on its ultrawide, since its main lens does a much better job. The 2x shots aren't far apart in quality, but Vivo applies stronger noise reduction. Its telephoto lens extracts more detail, which is clearly visible on the small text, though Samsung catches up nicely at 5x. Moving to 10x and beyond is a mixed bag. Both perform well generally, but Vivo relies too heavily on AI processing. It is very obvious on the text, whereas the Samsung keeps things looking more natural, even if it captures less detail. Moving on to selfies, and this might be the closest they have matched in color science so far. Both offer a solid level of detail, but the S26 Ultra is slightly brighter on my body, while the X300 Pro exposes my face a bit differently. Both offer zoomed in crops. Samsung punches in closer by default, but you can push the Vivo all the way to 2x and still get a surprisingly good shot. Activating portrait mode, the Vivo defaults to a stronger bokeh effect and deeper color saturation, but it handles the background separation significantly better. We get the zoomed in options here as well. Color accuracy leans in Samsung's favor, but at 2x crop, they are quite evenly matched. Color processing remains a main differentiator when using the rear cameras for portraits. While the 50mm shot isn't amazing from the Vivo, it still edges out the Samsung. However, switching to the telephoto widens the gap entirely in favor of the X300 Pro. Samsung's 5x lens manages to step up, giving us two highly capable portrait shots.
I'm now shooting in 4K with 30 frames per second using the front-facing cameras. Both are not that far off. Looking at the colors here, Samsung is maybe a little bit brighter, but we can't change the field of view here on the Samsung. We can do so on the Vivo. Go to 2x, let's go back to 1x and to 0.8x, which gives us a much wider field of view. The Vivo also has the option of voice enhancement, so now voice enhancement is enabled. This area is quite silent, even though we are at the sea. It is not that loud, so now voice enhancement is deactivated. No idea if you really can feel a big difference here. Now I'm recording in 4K with 30 frames per second using the rear cameras. The picture on the Samsung looks quite a bit more vivid, and also the field of view is wider here. Let's walk on here. And the ultra wide lenses. Let's go to the main lens one time. And the field of view seems to be still wider here from the Samsung. Quality wise, yeah, of course, quite close. Like the blue of the sign here pops a bit more on the Samsung. Let's one time check out the zooming options here. Let's go back to the ultra wide. 1x, 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x, and 25x as a max zoom. Transitioning is also fine here, and we always have this new option, this smooth zoom wheel. But whenever you switch a lens, it's actually quite obvious. Now the same for the Vivo. Let's go to the ultra wide lens. 1x, 2x, 3.5, 10x, and maximum of 20. So now it's 20. And then the transitioning also is fine. And now some footage with 60 frames per second, 4K, we are the ultra wide lenses. Same can be said about the colors as before. Let's go one time to the main lenses, the one you might be using most of the time anyway. Again, the colors, especially the blue tones here, they are popping more on the S26 Ultra. So now I have the steady shots on, the super steady with the horizontal lock on the S26 Ultra. So now let's one time try to jog. The S26 Ultra also has this new feature that no matter how you move the camera, it will stay in focus. So let's sometimes do crazy stuff. Let's see how much it really stayed in focus, or steady at least.
Time for low light performance, and there is a massive difference in brightness. It almost looks like I used a flash or an external light for the Vivo, but that illumination is purely from the bus stop behind me. Unfortunately, you can't read the text on the Samsung at all. Switching to the main lens improves things, but the Vivo stays noticeably brighter, even brighter than what my eyes could see. Zooming in further, the Vivo starts to suffer a bit in quality and the image turns too warm. Its telephoto lens performs great though, delivering a clean, although slightly overexposed shot, while the Samsung looks a bit sad in comparison. The S26 Ultra's 5x lens handles the scene slightly better, but not by a huge margin. The Vivo continues to impress with its details, and at 10x, it provides a much more polished and brighter image overall. To keep it quick, neither ultrawide impresses here. However, the main lens shots are excellent and very close in color science. Still, the Vivo does a better job capturing the shop signs and is sharper across the board. You might have noticed that it was raining cats and dogs at that moment, and the 2x crop looks significantly better on the X300 Pro. The rain is still clearly visible with the Vivo's telephoto, while the Galaxy start to lose those fine details. The same applies at 5x, though Samsung actually captures the netto sign just as well as the Vivo, maybe even slightly better. However, the Vivo smooths out the signs at 10x, resulting in a less noisy and much more detailed shot. These shots are very close in color, but the S26 Ultra has a slight edge in quality on the ultrawide. It loses that advantage on the main lens, where it struggles to expose the lit sign properly. This issue continues at 2x, where the overall quality from Samsung is just awful. The Telephoto improves things, but it falls even further behind the Vivo, which takes a fantastic shot and also beats Samsung at 5x. Next up are low-light selfies. The Vivo offers better overall quality, but the Samsung is much more accurate with its colors. This remains true at 1x, but cropping into 2x is hardly recommendable as the quality degrades noticeably.
I'm not shooting in 4K with 30 frames per second. And of course, I pick the night where it is raining, where it is very cold. It feels like we are back in November. Horrible weather, very cold, very windy. 0.8x on the Vivo. Now it's 1x. And getting closer to my freezing face, 2x. So 0.8x is preferable for me. The field of view is also much wider here compared to the Samsung's default field of view, which we can't change. Colors seem to be quite close, looking at the yellows here. Not that far off. But I'm far from home and now cold. I'm not shooting in 4K, 30 frames per second using the rear cameras. Both are on the ultra wide. And if you ever asked yourself how would the Vivo X300 Pro and Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra perform at night during the rain, I have the right video for you right now. Here the Vivo is actually more color accurate. Looking at the colors here and the place. Now getting closer. They're also close here now. So now on the mainland, the X300 Pro is still brighter and overall giving us a much warmer look. Definitely too warm if I compare to what I can see in reality. The S26 Ultra is definitely more true to life. So the Vivo is off here in the colors. The S26 Ultra has definitely also a colder tone in general, but it definitely matches the reality better.
So which of these flagships would you pick? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.